Hey everybody, welcome back. This is going to be a project video, and in this project video we're going to build a leather cover for a Steno Notepad. These are real popular in the shop where I apprenticed at. The guy that taught me how to build saddles, he always used Steno pads. He had them laying all over the shop. He'd take phone messages, work on projects, whatever. That was kind of his notebook, his go-to notebook. And I still use them pretty frequently in here. They're just handy to have around. Claudia can make cut list or whatever we need, just little notes and things like that. It's just a good place to keep any kind of phone messages, anything like that, we'll keep in there. So we're gonna make a very simple little notebook. We've made a few different types of notebooks, the field notebook, portfolio, we made the spiral notebook. This one's gonna be very similar to a lot of those that we've already done, except I'm gonna do a little bit different spine on there. It is gonna be, we're gonna make the spine out of just a simple piece of chap leather like we did for the spiral notebook. The only thing different on this one, and you can do it either way, you can, I'm gonna show you in the video, you can do two different ways, but on the one that I build in this video, I'm gonna do a rolled edge on that since we do have a bell skiver in the shop now, just to kind of show you some of the advantages of having a bell skiver in your shop and kind of some of the things you can do with it. I'm not a master on that machine. I'm just learning and trying to get more comfortable with the machine, so I'm finding any other kind of excuse that I can to use it. And so for making the spine for this project, I've already gone around, we'll talk about it again, but I've gone around and I've thinned down or skived down all the way around this spine piece, this simple little piece of chap leather. And we'll show you how that goes in. I've also got both of my panels already completely tooled. Here's the front and the back. We're gonna build this project out of 5/6, so your front and back main body panels will be cut from 5/6 ounce leather. You could certainly bump that up some if you want a little heavier notebook, but I find this weight's gonna work out perfect by the time we get a 3/4 ounce liner and pocket on there. It makes a really nice, comfortable, lighter weight notebook that's very easy to store. It's not very bulky, it opens and closes well. And you'll notice here, I've already done all the tooling, so I won't show any of that in this video, but as you can see here, I've lined this front and back panel with some poster board. I did that in this project instead of the blue painter's tape because the paper, the cardboard will work really well to keep the project from stretching. So if you don't, if you're tooling it, especially basket stamp, it's gonna wanna stretch on that 5/6. This poster board is gonna do a much better job of keeping it from stretching out on you than the blue painter's tape will. Also, it's gonna give this notebook just a little more body, a little more stiffness, so it's not gonna be quite as soft and flimsy. And so I like that feel, that's what we've done. So we'll get into more of the details of that, but you'll need two panels of 5/6, two panels for your liners of 3/4, and then two pockets, a left and a right, for your pockets that will hold the notebook in and any other loose leaf little notes or anything like that. We'll go over all the patterns. We're gonna put this project together. It's gonna go pretty easily. It's a very easy project to make. It's not very big. These Steno pads here are 6 by 9 inches. So I bought these at the dollar store, so you can buy them at Walmart, dollar store, office supply. They're real popular. And you can make these as items that you just have on your retail floor or at a show that you can sell, or they make great Christmas gifts too, Father's Day, birthdays, anything like that. Just something kind of neat in there to make these. Now we do have a pattern pack for this. If you want that, there's links down in the description. It'll come with different tooling patterns as our patterns always do, as well as all the cut patterns. And I've put two different, and you'll see when we do the spine, there's two different spines in there. One for if you want to do the rolled edge like we're going to do in this video, and one if you just want to use just a straight little strip of chap leather, make it simple and easy, it'll work good. So let's hop in the video. We're gonna go ahead and get started and make this notebook. All right, so we'll go over our parts right quick. Here's a close-up of that Steno pad. Like I said, it's just lined 6.9 or 6 by 9 size, spiral top. Very simple, very cheap, easy to replace. They're all pretty much the same size. And then here's our two front panels. Again, this is the front tooled, or our two outside panels, and this is the back. Now, if you'll notice in this panel right here, I have beveled a line all the way down there. The reason I've done that is because I'm gonna put that spine on there. It's just a little added touch. You don't have to do this, but I find if you'll bevel that, with this project here, and you can do it on other projects as well, but I go ahead and bevel this, and then I matted this down with just a smooth matter that I made for doing some figure carving type work, and that just thins down. If you can kind of imagine, there's like a little ledge right there that comes up, and that allows that spine to kind of inset in there just a little bit. I think it's just a nice added touch. Not a big deal, but if you want to do that, it does make it nice. You got to kind of play with your layout a little bit because you need a double line border there so that you have something to bevel on this side as well as the tooling on this side. So and that's doing that, and then I line them with that poster board. So as you can see there, you just want to be sure anytime you use that poster board, don't go all the way to your edge or you'll see that poster board in your edges. So we've got those two, and then we've got our two liners of 3/4. They are a little oversized because, again, as you know, if you've watched a few of our videos, I always like to leave a little bit of excess around there. Once this is glued on, we can trim that up nice and true, edge and slick. Makes it a lot easier to line up your work when you're gluing it together. You don't have to get so precise lining up something this size. And then we've got our two pocket panels here, which we'll finish cutting these out. They've got a little shape to them, so we'll cut those out here in just a second. And so here's our spine pattern. Now, like I said, in the pattern pack, there is two different images for the spine. That's so that you can do, if you want to do one with the rolled edge, you can do that by hand, but it's going to be pretty difficult to get this skived just right by hand. If you're good at that, you're more than welcome to do that, but one of them is for the rolled edges. We're going to roll this over, and that way it makes a nice rolled edge there, which you'll see in a minute. Or you can do just a straight piece of chap leather. The one thing you'll want to do is that second spine image that's on the pattern pack, it basically takes about 3/8 of an inch off of all the way around it. So if you'll notice, this is one solid piece here, but if you're going to do the second one, or the regular spine with no rolled edge, it's about 3/8 of an inch smaller all the way around. So if you use that one, it'll be smaller than this piece here. You'll basically have this piece without these thinned edges on there is basically the size that it'll be. So you can do either one you want to do there. Our first step here is going to be to line this piece, or the front and back panels. So what we'll do is we'll get our liners out. So we're going to go ahead and put glue on all 4 of these panels here, and then let that set up 1 to 2 coats, whatever you think you need there. But we'll go ahead and go to the glue table. We'll get these glued up so that while they're drying, we can start working on our spine piece. So we've got all 4 of our panels. We're just going to lay these down and put a good coat of glue on all of these. Okay, so while the glue's drying, we're going to do a couple things. One, I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting this pocket out, and that way that's ready to go. And you can cut these pockets out any shape you want. I just like to give them a little bit of a swoop like that. And remember, you're going to have a left and a right of this pocket. So be sure that you flip the pattern over when you cut these out. And on this particular project, I'm going to not worry too much about the edges. This is 2 3-ounce leather, 3/4 ounce leather, I mean. So if you want to try to slick that, you can. We're just going to leave it for right now. And then we're going to take our piece here. I'll show you on the bell skiver exactly how I did that. And that way, if you have a bell skiver, you can kind of see what I did. But we're going to want to go ahead and thin this down all the way around. And that way we can begin to roll this. Well, we'll go to the bell skiver and I'll kind of show you what I did there. Okay, so this is our Cobra MP4 from Leather Machine Co. This is a bell skiver. This little thing is really, really handy, especially for doing something like this. I've already got it set. There is a guide right here to adjust from this knob back here, and you can set your distance. I've got it set at, from the foot that I have on here, I've got it set 3/8 of an inch back. And so I've got the bell set on the thickness that I want. And so what that's going to allow me to do is I just let that leather ride against that guide, and it'll take off just the right amount so that whenever we roll these edges, it'll be the right size to fit this notebook. And so we're just nice and easy, stay along our guide, and it'll take that right off. Okay, and then we'll pick the foot up, start where we stopped on there, and then run along this side. You can see that right there. And so there we are, scibed all the way around. It's the proper thickness. It's much easier to roll that. It's going to leave a nice rolled edge right there on the front, or along our edges there, which looks much nicer than just the chap leather. But like I said, if you want to do the other one, you can certainly do that if you don't have one of these machines. But if you do have one, make things a lot easier. All right, guys, so I lost my audio on this one clip here, and I'm not sure why. But anyway, we're going to do the spine piece here. I'm going to take some double-sided tape, and I'm just going to run a line straight down each end. If you're doing the rolled edge here, you want to run that down on the full thickness part of that chap leather. And we'll just break that off there at the end. We're going to run one line on each side, and then we'll go ahead and fold it all the way around. But we're going to do the sides first. All right, so now we'll pull one side of the tape off and that paper piece, and now you want to roll this, and you want to get it as tight up against that full thickness piece as possible, rolling that thinned area of the leather, and try to keep your edge as straight as you can. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of a wobble in it because you're not pulling it quite as snug consistently all the way down the line. So we're just going to take our time, roll that over, and let it stick down there on that tape. And we'll do each side. We'll do both the long sides first, then we'll come up and do the end pieces. Okay, so then we tap that down with a hammer and make sure we got it stuck good. Now before we do the ends, we're going to go ahead and just clip right there where you're going to fold over the top. We're going to clip that, and then you're going to cut that at a little bit of an angle to the inside. It's going to ensure that you don't have any excess hanging out from underneath that edge there. So it's just going to be at just a little bit of an angle. You just eyeball it, and that way you get that corner covered real nice. And so we'll cut that at a little bit of an angle. So right there, you're just going to clip, and then come in there and just angle cut that. And we'll do the same thing to the other end. And you'll see how nice that'll fold over and cap that other end off. So now again, we'll take our double-sided tape. We're just going to put one little strip right there at the very end. Same way we did on the other long portions of that. Now when you pull that paper off, when you roll these ends, be sure and roll them nice and tight and consistent to try to close that little bit of a corner. You're only going to see just a little bit of a squint of that corner where that cut was made. There's probably a way more professional way to do this, but this is the best way I found that's kind of simple. And just roll that in, tape it down, tap it down with your hammer, and you'll be ready for the next step. And so now that we've got that done, we need to just sew a little line there on the ends just to keep those tabs from coming loose. So we'll go to the sewing machine and sew those, and this spine will be ready to go. Okay, so our spine is ready to go. We have the edges rolled on there, and we have the top and the bottom sewn. And so that one's ready to go. We'll set that off to the side. Now grab our pieces that we glued because they should be ready. So we've got our two back panels and our two front panels, so we'll go ahead and glue those in place. We'll just set those in there. Now that we've got those glued, I want to go ahead and just trim off this feather. And you can trim it flush all the way around. Okay, so those are ready to go. Now I'm going to go ahead and slick up. We have talked about this before on this thinner leather. How do you slick the edges? The easiest way, if you don't have a really small edger to be able to go around here and edge this, the easiest way that I've found is just to take your water and just put your water on your edge. You don't even really have to use any soap. Just take your rag. If your rag is broke in really good, you should just be able to lay it flat on the table and just kind of push down right there along the edge and just slick with your rag right there. And that's going to roll that edge enough on this thin leather to look really nice. If you've got an edger that small, and they do make them for this thinner leather, it really does help. It'll make it look really nice. But I find, since I don't have one, this seems to work the best for me, and then I'll give it a light rub there just on the top edge. Okay. So now we need to glue these in place on here. Now you want to be sure that you've got the proper one, because you want this higher area to be on the outside of the cover. So if this is the front, that's the way I want it to look on the inside. So when we open that up, you can imagine that's the back, it's the front. When we open it up, the higher spot in this particular pocket is to the outside. So that one would go there and that one would go there. And just check them, make sure you got them right. You got your maker stamp right, you know, as far as up and down. So what we'll do is we'll line this up. I want these pockets have a little bit of an overhang. They're supposed to. Then you want to take a pencil and just make a little mark where that pocket goes, where that side goes. And we will run glue, just a little dab of glue around the edge from mark to mark, and then around here on the bottom, along the bottom of this thing. So we're going to use our glue pot here. I'm just going to use one of these little paddles. These little applicators, I think they work really good for this type of application, because you can just come right off the edge there and kind of keep that glue and stuff a little more contained. All we needed to do is hold it in place. We don't need a lot of glue. We'll let those dry real quick. All right, so our glue is dried, and so now we'll go ahead and line up our pockets. You want to use those marks that you made. Line those up and just glue those down. Make sure you got a little bit of overlap off the edge that you can trim off. All the way around here, you just need a little bit. Good time too to make sure that you got the pocket on the right side, your maker stamp's facing the right way, or any letters on your front piece. We got that on there. So now we are ready to sew. What we're going to do is go to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew from right here, right at the edge of where our spine is going to sit in there, because this spine is going to come in here and set right along there. So we're going to go ahead and sew from this point around to the other point. Do not sew this side yet. We'll sew that when we sew the spine in. So we're going to do that on both of those. We're going to sew from here all the way around, and then we'll be able to edge and slick this and get it all ready to go. Last thing we'll do is put the spine in there. Okay, so we've done our sanding. We've got it stitched right there. Like I said, don't stitch down the spine. We'll sew that when we sew the spine in there. So now we'll go ahead and do our edging, slicking, and dyeing. It'll go all the way around with your slicking and your edging. Get all that done, let them dry, and then go ahead and dye them, and then we'll be ready to do final assembly, which is just installing the spine. We'll come back to that. I'll go ahead and get all these edges slicked. We do have a video on slicking our edges if you'd like to go back and look at that. If you're brand new to leatherwork, it's very, very helpful. Everybody's got their own process. We're going to go ahead and get that knocked out. Okay, so we've gotten our edges done. We'll let those edges dry, and then we added I did dark brown on the edges here just to get those dyed. And so now what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and install our spine. That's the last step really to get this finished up. First thing I want to do though is I want to punch some slots in here. It's just kind of a neat way to keep a pencil inside the spine of this little notebook. If you want to do a pen, depending on the style of pen that you would prefer to have in this notebook, you may make a 1-inch bag slot here and here, and that's going to, our first bag slot's going to be at 2 3/4, and then they'll be 3 inches apart roughly, and kind of adjust that to fit whatever pen style. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch. I found with a pencil that works out pretty good, keeps the pencil in there nice and snug so it doesn't fall out. But again, if you've got a bigger pen, a bigger barrel pen, you might need to use a 1-inch bag slot here. But what we're going to do is I've got it centered up. We're just going to put that there, punch through. And so again, that's just a very simple way that you can kind of come in here and slide that pencil into the spine, and that way it stays in place. You've always got a pen. It's not just rolling around inside the notebook. So you don't have to do that. I thought it was a neat little idea. I kind of came up with it at the very end of putting this thing together. The very first one I did, and I thought, well, that might work for a pencil pretty good. So now what we'll do is we're going to take our double-sided tape here, and we're just going to run a line of tape down each side of where our overlap is. Okay, so I made a very simple mistake in putting this in. If you notice where we put those slots on our gusset piece, I've got it, or our spine piece, I've got them shifted up towards the top, or what I would call the top of the notebook. And that's just so the pencil, when it's in there, it's kind of up higher and you've got more space on the bottom. It doesn't matter how you set up your slots. If you set them up more dead center, then this won't be an issue. But with mine, I want the pencil up towards the top. And the first spine, I actually, as you can see, we already have holes in these 2 front and back panels. It's because I installed the spine, but I wasn't paying attention, trying to do the video and everything. And I put it in actually upside down, so the pencil would be lower on the spine. To do it just the way I wanted and the way I've done 2 or 3 of these already, I want it at the top, so I cut the other gusset out. So anyway, we made a new gusset. It's ready to go. And so what we'll do is we're going to go ahead. I've got my paper pulled off of this side. We're only going to pull it off on one side, and we're going to line it up. You're going to want to line it up with the top edge there, and then work that down. The advantage to having that beveled line there right along this edge where that spine is going to set down in, just a little bit recessed, is that if you're doing the rolled edge, sometimes your edge will be have a little bit of wave in it. You didn't pull the tension on it exactly the same or something like that. With that beveled edge, you can kind of straighten that up by just butting it up against that beveled edge, and that'll help to keep that spine look really straight. And so we'll tap that in, make sure we got a good stick there with that double-sided tape, and make sure that if you're doing it by our pattern, it is offset up towards the top. Just make sure your slots are up here. I don't think it would have mattered, but for me, I wanted to go ahead and get it the way I want it. And so we're not going to glue this side onto here just yet, because that double-sided tape may not hold it really well, and I don't want it falling off, and we've got to reset it anyway. So we'll just leave that paper on there. We're going to sew this side, then we'll come back and attach it to here and sew that side. I'm not going to use a guide on this because the guide won't set down all the way if it's sitting on top of this material. So we're just going to eyeball here and keep our presser foot about the same distance from the edge all the way down, and just sew it by eye. And so that's what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and go to the sewing machine and get this part sewn. Okay, so we've gotten our side sewn on this, and so now we'll line this up and sew this side. Pull our tape off. We'll start at one end. Make sure we're right up against that bevel line. And now we'll head to the sewing machine and sew that one. Okay, so we've gotten both sides sewn on there. This book is pretty well done, and you can see how easy, without anything in it even, it just stays shut. That's because of the soft spine there. It's going to allow that to bend and shut and stay shut, and then open and nice and flat. And so what I like to do is take something long and skinny here that you can just kind of go inside here and break any glue that you might have excess up against those stitches. It's just going to allow that pocket to kind of be teased out just a little bit, and that way your steno pad will slide in there, or any other loose leaf paper or anything like that that you've got, and so that the pocket is nice and broke loose. And so we'll go ahead and take our steno pad, slide that in place, and there's our notebook. And this right here, you can kind of break this in a little bit, but that little area right there, just to hold a pencil, keeps everything in one spot. You grab this notebook, you've got something to write with. Like I said, if you want to use a bigger slot here, or even make that spine a little wider for a bigger pen, or do something completely different, that's absolutely fine. I just thought that was a real quick, easy way to keep some type of writing utensil in that notebook. All right, guys, so that's making our steno notebook cover, notepad cover. Very simple, very similar to some of the other ones that we've done. I just thought it was kind of fun trying that little technique on the spine, doing the rolled edge. Don't have to do that. You could actually make that spine there out of just another piece of 3/4 ounce leather if you wanted to. You could use chap leather, you could use an exotic, you can use whatever you want there for the spine. And you can also change the pencil holder or pen holder. I just thought that was kind of neat and pretty simple, real quick, if you're trying to make items that you can sell at a little market, or in your store, or on Etsy, or on your online store. These are always real popular. We've made a lot of notebooks over the years. Everybody wants something like this just to have in their pickup, in their bag, whatever, just to take quick notes, that kind of thing. All in all, goes together really easy. We've got a pattern pack for this, so if you are interested in some more floral tooling patterns, this is one of them that's in there. This is actually the pattern that we tooled in our class that we did to kind of debut this project, and then there's a bunch of other tooling patterns in there as well as all the cut patterns and all that stuff. pretty simple. Give this one a try. Steno notebooks are cheap. They're popular. You can buy them at dollar store, Walmart, anything like that. You can make you up a bunch of these, and they'd probably sell pretty good. They don't have to fit anybody. They're just kind of a handy little notebook to have around. I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see y'all in the next project video.